Hello, my name's Alex Hill and we're here for our second video discussing the Wye Bridge closure, which is imminently approaching now. 8 weeks away. We're still no closer to a solution from Monmouthshire County Council. Now I'm gathered here with some local residents from Wyesham and beyond who are going to hopefully share their views with us of the bridge closure, how it's going to go and what's going to happen with it. Now, I just wanted to speak very briefly about 5 case studies from people who I've been in contact with over the last couple of days. The one is suffering a severe hemorrhage of the eye. She's very concerned about getting to regular hospital appointments, which she has to have in Newport and Cardiff. She doesn't drive herself, and by the bridge being shut, this is going to cause massive problems for her. A second one, a friend of our family, Amanda Stevens, her daughter Sophie, is partially blind and a local dance and fitness instructor. She's compared this to practically being made redundant with the bridge closure, as it won't be worth her while to drive the clients which she drives to all over Monmouthshire. It's not going to be financially worthwhile for her to do this. So it's costing lots of money, potentially ruining her business. A third one I've spoke to today is extremely worried about the extra fuel it's going to cost by taking a 30-mile detour in the current financial climate. She has animals the other side of Monmouth, which she has to feed on a nightly basis. So on top of her work schedule, this is going to cause her issues. She's extremely concerned about the time of year it's being done in the dark. We're going to have the clock change in October, of course, so it's going to be darker nights earlier. She doesn't like walking under the subway at night, where gangs of kids have been known to accumulate, which can be quite intimidating for especially lone females or elderly people. And her parents are reliant on her for shopping, as she has dementia, and she's extremely worried about the timings of the route, getting to and from work in unfamiliar roads she's not used to driving. And now a fourth company have contacted me today, actually, Mayhem, which is Monmouth Youth Theatre Group. They have a show on during this scheduled work, and they're extremely concerned due to the impact this is going to have. They have audience members. They obviously rely on their audience to come to watch them, and that with the bridge being done at this time, it's going to cause problems. Their members also come from both sides of the bridge, so they're worried about getting to rehearsals, gathering for the show. It's apparently all booked. They're not able to change it due to licensing law, so they've asked me to mention they're really concerned about this. And now another point that hasn't been raised that I missed in my first video, myself, I've got Crohn's disease. We have a weekly shop from Tesco in Newport, and I'm a bit concerned. We can't seem to get confirmation from Monmouthshire County Council how far afield they've mentioned the businesses they're notifying. So what my concern is, I'm reliant on this food. I'm on a strict dairy, wheat and gluten-free diet. Food I quite often can't get in Monmouth, so I have to have from away. And I'm concerned that they're going to drive from Newport to Monmouth, see there's a 30-mile diversion and think, I'm not doing that. Turn around and go back to Newport. Now, that's me without food for a week. You know, how far are the council prepared to notify businesses? How are they talking to these companies? There's local businesses here that are going to be affected, further afield in town, and these are all just points that are feeding in to my last video, and I'm sure you're going to hear from more locals about their concerns.
I'm a retired member of Wyesham community, and I would like to ask this question of Monmouthshire County Council. Which elements of the Wellbeing Act have been considered in the decision-making process to close the Wye Bridge for a period of 5 weeks to vehicular traffic? There are many people who can only access the town through cars and through the bus service. The well-being is important because on the Wyesham side of the bridge there is no doctor's surgery or pharmacy. Without access to medical attention, in the case of a stroke, in the case of a brain hemorrhage, in the case of a heart attack, in the case of a woman who may go into premature labour, for example, and may be hemorrhaging, without access to immediate medical attention, what chance have they got? So where does the well-being come into that? Secondly, I'd like to know what measures are going to be taken to avoid this catastrophic situation occurring again. We all know how the damage has occurred on the Wye Bridge, and it's through these articulated vehicles. We know that the Wye Bridge was beautifully built for horses and carts. We know that cars then succeeded, and it was fine because it was well built. But the fact is that if those large vehicles are now mounting the pavement, it surely begs the question whether or not the Wye Bridge in its current state is fit for purpose. Now, I've lived here for 40 years, and the people of Wyesham have been making noises about their feelings of vulnerability when that bridge has been closed just for a day or two, through road accident and through roadworks. But I fear that the current situation is going to be solely an extra large sticking plaster put on a lack of foresight over the last 40 years that I've lived here. So I would like some answers to questions. I'm sure other people will too.
Hello, I'm a Wyesham resident and my name's Liz. I've been collecting for the petition with Alex from both sides of the bridge, as it affects not just us in Wyesham. When we say Wyesham, we also must remember the Kim Inn, which I know I've spoken to quite a few people up there who have voiced a lot of concerns because they're at least another mile up the hill. My biggest concern, and I've spoken with quite a lot of the small businesses in Wyesham, is how are they going to survive for 5 weeks? It's the small businesses, it's the window cleaners I've spoken to who say, how am I going to be expected to carry my ladder over the bridge? I'd like to know how that's going to happen. There's driving instructors, there's painters and decorators, lots of small businesses in Wyesham. How are they going to cope? How are they going to be compensated? And is there an alternative to shutting the bridge for 5 weeks? If so, it will save their businesses. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to be looking at the viability of the small businesses.
Hi, well, I'm a resident of Wyesham. My name is Paul, and I've got similar concerns to most of the other people. Recently, last Sunday, I had to take my 2-year-old daughter to A&E, and the local hospital is Abergavenny. That's where we went. Now, if that had been when the bridge is shut, my concern is where would we go? To take her to Abergavenny would have been quite a long way to go. I mean, I think you'd have had to go on to Ross first. So there's issues like that also come in. Bearing in mind that, you know, we pay for our local services and our local hospitals, but for quite a long period, I mean 5 weeks is a long time to not have any of these services. It also goes into all of the other things as well. Like many, I work, I have to do the school run, and having to go on the diversion means it could be at least another 2 hours out of my day, which means that really I'm left with a very bitty, broken up day. I might be able to squeeze in 2 or 3 hours work from a full day's work. So if that's on for 5 weeks, that's a lot of money that I'm going to lose as a self-employed person. And I want to know as well, why have the council not had any research, not done any research or had any meetings in relation to the effect it's going to have on the people of Wyesham, or what alternatives they have? The council have told me that they haven't done any research into this, and like many, I'm quite anxious and annoyed. I know that there are other people as well that have been kept awake at night trying to think of how they're going to cope with the 5 weeks that could potentially be closed. And like many have said, why is it that the bridge has never been closed before to have a resurface? We know the work needs to be done, but there's no structural issues according to their own engineering reports. They've said themselves that they are not doing any structural repairs, so it's a resurface of the top 4 inches. It's never been closed before for 5 weeks to do it. There's so many questions that just are not being answered. The council haven't met with the community regarding this closure of 5 weeks, and like many, we're just at a bit of a loss as to what we're going to do, and we feel completely and utterly abandoned by the council at the moment.